once again to my channel viewers. My name is Ofosu Godwin, a marketing trainer and a marketing professional. Today we're going to be talking about 10 mistakes to avoid when selling and how to handle these mistakes. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and don't forget to comment if you have any comments on the comment section. Most often, selling is seen to be an easy task by some people, non-sales professionals, but sales can be a very daunting and a very difficult task. Here are 10 mistakes that you must avoid as a salesperson. The first one is focusing more on price and not on value. Most salespeople focus more on price and not on value. So they tend to push the discussion more on price too soon. The moment they start the presentation, they just put out the price. So for example, you get a call, somebody telling you, I have a house to rent, I'm renting it for $1,000 a month, without telling you the benefits that house could give you, the value of that house. It is important not to come out with your focus on price too early. Even though price is a very decisive factor, don't let your first two lines be on pricing. Explain the problems that the product can solve. So what we say is that value first, or benefit first, and then price next. If the prospect or the customer realizes that you are focusing too much on price, he is going to take that advantage to beat down on price and therefore affect your profits. You see, whilst you are doing the discussion with the customer, after some time the customer will naturally come out asking you price, or after a while you can also come up with a price for the customer to know how much the product or the service costs. The second thing, or the next problem, is being too aggressive. Though aggressiveness is a very good tool in sales, but being overly aggressive or being too pushy can also let the customer or the prospect withdraw. Let the customer know you're always there for them and you are ready to answer any questions that they come up with. The number one skill in sales is patience. If you rush a prospect too much, the prospect might end up giving up and may not continue to buy from you. It is very important to not be too pushy and reduce one's level of aggressiveness. Another problem here is that most salespeople don't listen. They talk too much. They will do 80% of talking while client or the prospect does 20%. This is a big mistake. You tend to bore the prospect when you talk too much, and it makes the prospect feel as if you are not ready to take his problems into consideration and provide a solution for that. Don't talk too much. Some experts even say that you should do between 57 and 60% of the talk. Lure the customer to tell you his problems and then you also respond by telling him how your product can solve his problems. Allow the prospect to speak to, allow the customer to speak to, and ask intelligent questions to get his response. It is very important to be a good listener if you are a salesperson or when you are selling. If the communication becomes one way, everything is coming from you, it looks as if you are just offloading what you know on the customer and not actually looking up to and valuing the customer's time and all that. The next mistake is that most salespeople tend to end up arguing with potential customer or a prospect. This may short-circuit the sales process. Unreasonable objections from the prospect or the potential customer can easily lead to arguments. So be very, very mindful of objections that will come from the customer or the potential customer. The prospect doesn't mind telling you that he has even bought your product before and it was no good. Meanwhile, he hasn't bought the product before. He can even ask provocative questions that your business is a scam. So unreasonable objections may lead to arguments. This is what to do when unreasonable objections come. Instead of arguing, rather ask questions to get more clarity. Allow the prospect to finish talking and don't quickly defend your point. Let them know the stand or the position of your company. And always don't show that you have disagreed with some of his objections. There's one thing in sales: disagreement is a better time to understand your prospect or your potential customer better. It is important to ensure that you control your emotions so that you don't end up arguing with the customer. Some customers may bow out if they realize that you are arguing with them. They will not be happy to continue with you. Another mistake or another blunder is making promises that you can keep. Some salespeople make promises that they can't keep by telling lies, over positioning the product or the service, telling the customer that the product can do more than he expects or she expects. See, one of the pillars of sales is trust. A prospect or a customer needs to trust you before he buys your product. You lose your trust when the product underperforms by making promises and by over-positioning the product, or by telling the customer the product does what the product cannot even do. What happens is that there's going to be a post-purchase evaluation, and that negative experience of your product will lead to a lot of problems. You might lose repeat business or even lose upselling. Upselling is simply selling a higher value or a higher version of a product to the same customer. Don't make claims that you are not sure of. If you are not sure about something or a particular technical requirement of the product, ask an expert in your team or ask an expert. Okay, tell the prospect that you will get back to him in a phone call or an email or in a chat. Don't lie to the customer. Don't lie to the prospect or the potential customer. Another mistake that some salespeople do is that they make the prospect take control of the whole sales conversation. They begin to think that if they don't allow the customer to take control, the customer will no more be interested in the dialogue or in the sales conversation. Don't lose control and don't end up losing sale. Ensure that you also come in to talk and then try to answer questions that are put forth by the prospect or the potential customer. The next mistake is not knowing your product. Product knowledge is key. In fact, you cannot sell something you don't know much about. It is better to know the inside out of your product. For a salesman to perform very well, product knowledge is key. And most salespeople are taking through product knowledge. If you are selling anything, try to learn more about the product so that you don't end up losing the prospect. Another mistake is not establishing a relationship. You see, it is good to establish a relationship with the prospect. With that, you can easily sell to that particular prospect. Try educate the client or the prospect about your product. Don't easily elicit or close a sale, but educate your client about the product. This develops some kind of relationship. Don't force closing sale. You can even tell the customer that I will get back to you tomorrow in the morning, would that be okay for you? Than to force a customer to buy instantly. Not all customers buy impulsively, and not all products can be sold through impulse or through impulse buying. So establish a relationship. For certain products, it can even take a whole year before a sale can be made. And I'm seeing it from practical example and from practical experience. When a particular sale took me a whole year to close the sale. So in this instance, you build a relationship. You can send text message. You can even send message to the client about new releases that you have, new products that you have. You can even send information about news concerning your products to the customer. On his birthday, on certain national days like Independence Day, etc., world days, you can send messages to the client. And this helps to develop relationship. But one big mistake that most salespeople do is that they tend not to establish a relationship. They're always looking out for a one-off sale and sell to the customer. The next thing is that though it is good to discriminate against your competitor, some salespeople do make the mistake of blackmailing competitors. They blackmail competitors. And this may also create some problems. To some customers, it shows lack of confidence in your own product. Even though it is good to discriminate against your competitors. Focus on the advantages of your product or service and the extra value that your product or service can offer that competitors cannot offer. Blackmailing your competitor may lead to so many problems. And like I said, to some experienced customers, some savvy customers, to them it shows a lack of confidence in the fact that your product that you are selling, you don't even trust your own product that you are selling. It shows lack of confidence in your product. So don't overly blackmail competitors. Now, the last mistake that I'm going to talk about is where salespeople ignore the prospect's budget. Ignoring the prospect or the potential customer's budget is also another mistake and another flaw that most salespeople do. There is nothing wrong asking about the customer's budget. How much do you have? Or how much can you afford? Never think for the prospect that the prospect has that much to buy your product. Even though it's uncomfortable to find out from the customer his budget, it is necessary or it's a nice way of trying to handle the prospect or the potential customer. It also prevents you from wasting time and resources on the customer. You can spend 6 months on the customer, and at the end of the day, his budget is not up to and he's not willing to buy. So these are some of the mistakes that people make when selling. Avoid making those mistakes. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and share. Support this channel to grow so I continue to give you free business advice and free business consultancy. Thank you very much for watching.